Today we look at Taiwan's solar panel installations and energy transition.
We also tell you about airline ground crew protests.
And we finish off with a short discussion of Taiwan's green transition. This is Taiwan Insider. Welcome to the show. Taiwan, like most countries, is in the midst of a massive green energy transition.
Taiwan's government released a net zero by 2050 plan last year. That plan includes building more solar panels. But Taiwan is a small country with not a lot of free space.
Now, new technology may make installing more solar panels easier. RTI reporter Carl Thelin has more.
Taiwan is leading the way in a new green technology, solar power that floats. RTI reporter Carl Thelin tells us more.
Behind me, you can see a large floating solar power plant.
Floating solar power is better than land-based solar power in many ways. It doesn't take up valuable land, it makes great use of reservoirs, and it reduces algae by decreasing the sunlight that enters the water. This is the first floating solar power plant in Taiwan that had a capacity larger than 2 megawatts.
I am caught up today with Vivi Lee, who is the business development manager at EVA Air, the French company that has been building floating solar power plants in Taiwan for the last several years. This one was opened in 2018. Taiwan has become a world leader in floating solar power. How did that come about?
For Taiwan, I think we have a very special geological situations here. We are an island nation and we have the challenge of earthquake, typhoon, and also we're surrounded by salt water as well. We have a lot of salty water projects. I think this is why it kind of moved Taiwan forward, because we are taking on much more challenge compared to some European countries or some other countries while they have no typhoon, no earthquake, and no salty water environment.
How much floating solar power have you installed in Taiwan so far?
We have fully installed more than 117 megawatts of floating solar in Taiwan, and at the moment we are actually building another 200 megawatt in Taiwan.
Okay, can you put that in layman's terms, like how many households of electricity provided and CO2 emissions saved?
For the 170 megawatt that we have already built, it will be enough to, every year the energy that's generated is enough for more than 70,000 households annual electricity use. And in terms of CO2 emissions, it's equal to 120,000 tons of CO2.
One of EVA Air's most ambitious projects is the Changbin power plant in Changhua in central Taiwan. This facility was built on the open sea, so it faced special design challenges like waves and salt corrosion.
You recently built a large-scale floating solar installation along the coast in Changhua. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, that's a very challenging project actually. That's also one of the single biggest project the whole EVA Air group used to have. We used to have our biggest single power plant in China, and now it has been replaced by our project in Taiwan in Changhua. So what is special about this project is that we have overcome the challenge to build it in a closed environment, closed water and fresh water. By fresh water, I mean it's not salty, it's not contaminated, it's just normal water. And the challenge that we're facing in Changhua area in this project, we call it Changbin 1, is that it's an open water, so it's basically seawater and with an open end, it's not a closed area. And we also have to encounter waves. So our systems will have to face the challenge of the continuous wave every day.
So can you tell us, what does the future hold for floating solar power in Taiwan?
To preserve the land of our nation is something very important. For example, we wouldn't want a land that's perfect for housing, it's perfect for a commercial area to be turned into a solar power plant, while it can be used for a better purpose or a more optimized purpose.
So, the future looks bright for floating solar power here in Taiwan and throughout the world.
Jiang Guangnan took office as Taipei mayor last week, leaving behind an open seat in the legislature. Now, candidates in the January 8th by-election for that seat are in their final campaign push.
Candidates for Taipei's legislative byelection smile and wave as they ride through a chorus of firecrackers. Kuomingdang candidate Wang Hongwei says a total of 18 party members have joined her canvassing campaign. Opposition Democratic Progressive Party candidate Enoch Wu also took to the streets to rally support. Wu says his party acting chair and prospective party chair will join him later this week. Wu says his election platform is focused on strengthening Taiwan's national security, competitiveness, and globalization. Wang says she is focused on energy and taxation surplus issues. She says she will announce plans to strengthen Taiwan's social safety net later this week. By-election candidates will have 15 minutes to speak on their platforms at a political forum on Wednesday. This is part of their final push to sway undecided voters in the Zhongshan and Northern Zhongshan district. The KMT and DPP each hold 3 legislative seats, so this election will impact how much support Taipei's new KMT mayor, Zhang Wan'an, will receive from legislators. The final results will be announced on Sunday. Taiwan's government says it will give 6,000 NT dollars to citizens in surplus taxes this year. Giving red envelopes to family and friends may be a Lunar New Year tradition, but not everyone is welcoming the government's move.
If you're a Taiwanese national who loves cold, hard cash, you're in luck. On Wednesday, officials announced all Taiwanese citizens will receive 6,000 NT dollars in surplus taxes. One person says the money will make a big difference for those facing economic hardships. She says even 1,000 NT dollars would go a long way, let alone 6 times that. Another local says the 6,000 will go fast. She says today it's easy to spend 1,000 NT dollars at the vegetable market. Another person adds that before you could go through the whole market street and spend only 100 NT dollars, but that's no longer possible. One 300-member clan in central Taiwan's Taichung plans to pull their government vouchers together into a whopping 1.8 million NT dollars to be deposited in their clan's foundation. But some think the government returning people's tax dollars is strange. One local says Taiwan has national debt to pay, and it should be using the funds to pay it off rather than leaving it to future generations. Every Lunar New Year, Taiwanese people wish each other a surplus in the coming year. It seems this year the government is making that wish come true. Many EVA Air flights were delayed this week as ground crews protested low year-end bonuses. Now many are wondering when the problem will be resolved.
Passengers arriving at Taoyuan International Airport may be surprised by the number of flight delays. Some employees of Evergreen Airline Services Corporation have been protesting since Sunday, which affected around 80 flights on the first day alone. But EVA Air says several flight changes are due to delayed transfer passengers and not an employee shortage. The airline's number of absent workers is also down from over 100 on Sunday to just 10 on Tuesday. EVA Air's ground crew says a reason why they are protesting is because their year-end bonus was only 1 month's wages. Other Evergreen Group companies received anywhere from 3 to 45 months' salary as their bonus. One worker says EVA Air refused requests to increase the bonus to 2 months' salary and did not give equal raises to different departments. Other workers complained about issues with overtime, rest breaks, and injury insurance. Although baggage handling is operating normally again, Evergreen Group has still not met the ground crew's demands. Some employees say if the corporation doesn't respond to their demands properly, they may hold another walkout during the upcoming Lunar New Year and other holidays.
Welcome back to the show. So, Brendan, I wanted to ask you, what did you think about the video we saw at the beginning of the show?
I actually thought it was a very informative and fascinating feature. I think to me, the thing that I was curious to know about is what environmental concerns are with installing solar panels. I think it doesn't really make sense to me if people are cutting down trees or, infringing on wildlife habitats in order to build solar panels. So this is one question that I would love to learn more about. I know there has been some pushback from environmental conservation groups in the sense that if we're building solar panels, a lot of migratory birds reside on wetlands. And so where will these birds go now if these solar panels are being installed. And so that is where I think I would love to learn more about. I have a background in ecology, and so I think in this energy transition that we're talking about, I think there still has to be a serious consideration into protecting the existing nature, while also making sure that the energy that we're using is coming from a clean source. Yeah.
Also our agricultural system, because I know in Taiwan a lot of the land that is turned into these solar parks is agricultural land, right? And Taiwan is already such a densely populated country, and a lot of farmers, if you take their land, not only does it become kind of a food security problem as well, but it can also become an issue for the livelihood of farmers.
Yeah, so I think this solar panel installation is not as simple as people might think. There are so many issues in terms of also like interacting with indigenous land as well. So I feel like there's so much, like it's a multi-pronged issue, which I'm curious if you had any thoughts about the video itself.
Yeah, so I really thought it was very interesting, this technology. I'd never imagined it, and I think it's a really great way of using space that you traditionally couldn't use for different kind of green energy systems, right? But I do have a lot of questions about the implementation of solar power generation in Taiwan. So, Taiwan last year released its green energy transition plan, its net zero by 2050 plan, which includes, like every country, a variety of different green energy, sustainable energy sources. But Taiwan has a lot of issues. For example, the Taiwanese people have made it clear in multiple instances that they don't want nuclear energy. Nuclear right now is 10% of the energy supply, right? So you already have to get rid of that, while a lot of countries are definitely relying on nuclear. So in Taiwan, it seems they're using a lot of wind, for example. And I think wind is probably more appropriate for Taiwan's situation because it's offshore, so it doesn't take up land, and also it creates less ecological problems. I thought it was really interesting how they were installing these solar panels kind of close to the shore on the sea. But I was wondering, what are the impacts on, for example, fish or birds that come close to the shore? How could that affect it? Or fisher people, for example, right? But I definitely think Taiwan should look more into, for example, geothermal energy. I know, for example, Iceland produces more than enough energy from geothermal. Taiwan, in a way, is lucky. Most people think it's unlucky, but we could actually be lucky that we're situated on a fault line with tons of geothermal energy potential. I know, for example, last year in Ilan and in Hualien, they built the first test projects to see if they could start producing geothermal energy. So I think it'd be interesting to see that. And also I'd be interested to see if, for example, I know that there are many groups right now pushing to make the government mandate that all new construction includes solar panels on the tops. So I think that would be a really interesting way of actually expanding the solar supply. But I have to say that at the end of the day, as great as technologies like we saw in Carl's video are, Taiwan needs to face the fact that it probably uses too much energy already, and that they need to think of different methods of actually lowering the overall use of energy, right? Because in Taiwan today, because of the real dominance of a lot of manufacturing, especially, for example, high technology semiconductors, right? When you come with an investment project and you're saying, well, we need all this energy and water, for example, the government almost never says no. And I think that's something that they should really start considering. But go ahead.
There's just like a lot of realities that you mentioned too. Like Taiwan cannot compare in terms of landmass to the States or like to other European countries, just because it has such limited land to work with. So realistically, what can be produced and what can be consumed, I think that is something we definitely have to wrestle with.
Yeah, definitely. So that's about all we have time for today here on Taiwan Insider. I'm Itamar Waksman.
And I'm Brendan Wong.
You can follow us on social media like Facebook and Twitter.
Or subscribe to our YouTube channel.
All right, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.